So I'm not going to hit live. It's not going to be live.
Okay.
So, which you missed that peak experience of doing it live, right? Everyone, who's watching? What's going on? So,
oh, we missed it, and I was almost on the verge of having it connected to my own social media. I was like, oh, why not? Let's just go for it. But it wasn't going to work anyway, huh? Since we couldn't.
Correct. And you're the first person that hasn't worked for. So I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe it's just not. Maybe there's something in it.
Maybe there's going to be some big life moment to get
maybe, because I know with live, it can add an additional amount of pressure of performance. And when it's just recorded locally, there's almost like a security there. So it's pushing beyond a safety into danger.
Yeah.
And unless you're like comfortable with that, it can be really, it can displace you. It can actually like disassociate you a little bit. So anyway,
I was ready.
Yeah, me too. So Aeray,
next time.
Aeray, thank you so much for coming. And this is a part 2. So part 1 was pre-ISTA level 1, and now we're having a conversation post ISTA level 1. And I know we commented off camera, but your whole energy structure is changed. Like your eyes have a different level of clarity. There's an embodiment in you, like there's a presence. Like before, when the last video, there was a bit of like flightiness, but you're like, here.
Yeah.
And I love it. So tell us, what's been your experience post this ISTA level 1?
Yeah, great. Well, I'll start with just kind of recapping what I was saying to you before we went on here, which was that, this whole journey through ISTA and beyond has been something so deep and unnameable, ineffable, that it's hard to even realize that the transformation is happening until it's like this interacting with life happens and you realize how different interacting is now. And as I was saying to you earlier, it really comes down to this transformation of our inner sense of security, being more secure in who we are and feeling safer, feeling emotionally current. That's huge. That's massive. Not carrying all the old stuff, the old, whatever it is that we want to repress, whether it's fear, anger. For me, it was a lot of rage. Yeah, I look forward to tapping into that one.
Yeah.
And not having that just like filtering through everything.
Yes. And before we jumped on, I actually listened to your message that you sent me, the first one. And also before we jumped on, you wanted to reschedule. And you sent me a message saying, hey, do you want to be at 4 or 4:30? And I was like, cool. When I read between the lines, I'm like, okay, cool. She might want to extend it a little bit. It sounds like you'd like 30 additional minutes. And what I loved about that was you asked for what you wanted, right? There was like an element of there. No, actually, you know what? I'd actually love initial 30 minutes. Like I've been back to back with clients. Like I just haven't eaten yet. So explain to me that process too, because I heard there was something that you wanted and you put it out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely the opportunity and the practice with asking for what I want or need, but even furthermore, saying no to what I don't, which is also what I went in there for, was to own my sacred no. And I've struggled with that. And I did a lot of both in different ways. And I had an opportunity to see that the reason I was afraid to ask for what I wanted was because I was afraid that somebody would say yes when they really meant no.
Wow.
And that I've been saying yes when I really mean no, of course. So I had many opportunities to explore this, and I gave a lot of no's. Until to the point where I was so confident in my no that I was just like, no, not even a chance, not even a little chance. Like, this is not happening. And not even having, not having the doubt of myself in that, which is my radiance, the doubt. And I had the opportunity, a friend of mine who was also in the training came and stayed with me this last week. And we've had our own little retreat over the last week that's been every bit as powerful. And I had a lot of opportunities in her reflections to where I noticed in the past, I would have taken this on and thought, maybe I'm doubting myself, like maybe she's right, and I should consider this perspective. And I've done that for most of my life. And in this moment, I really had the distinction in my feeling body of what's aligned and what's not. And I had the ability to say, no, I feel so clear about what's true for me. And I'm not going to be swayed on this. Like, I'm very, very clear about how this feels in my body. And this feels like truth to me. And I'm going with that. And I have this confidence and security that was there before, but wavering, waffling a bit. I was easily influenced to doubt.
Thank you. Yeah, I hear that this process and this journey, this transformation has really brought a crystallization of your sacred no and what your sacred yes is as well. In your messaging to me, a few things came up that I'd love to speak to. The leaky sexuality component, where like you would be approached by an energy of wanting to latch and clingy, and it's this sexual energy from men, and then you being able to confront that. So what was your journey with that?
Oh, that's a great question. So as we talked about in the last one, I believe the avoidant coming from an avoidant attachment style. And there's a couple ways I've worked with this to become more secure in my attachment style. And one of them is vulnerability. And the other one is confronting what I'm avoiding. And I had a lot of opportunities during this experience to confront, to notice I was avoiding someone for a specific reason, that I was afraid that they were going to want something from me, sexually, especially. I know the first few days, closed container, and I was scared of it. I was just like, I don't want this to open. I feel so free in this because there's these boundaries. And I was so nervous for it to open. And then it was a beautiful opportunity to experience that and have that energy come and be able to do that. And going willingly, I went and sought people out every time. And I said, hey, I want to name that I've been avoiding you because I feel this is what my perception is, and this is what I'm experiencing, and this is what I feel. And this isn't something that I want with you in this context, but this is what I'm available for, is this over here. Are you interested in that? And every time it went so beautifully, and I just felt more strong and empowered in it. And they were so appreciative. In fact, I've been still talking to a handful of these people about it because we're just going deeper and deeper into the possibilities of, of decoding what the energy is and how to work with it, how to transmute it, and where it's coming from, and a lot of times it comes from what my avoidant now perceives as, oh, there's an anxious attachment style. I can see that from a mile away. Let's not avoid it. Let's go here and say, hi, anxious, what's happening for you? Let's look at it and talk about it. And it's been very productive.
Beautiful. I love what you spoke to there about there was something in your body that would tell you that you were avoiding. And I feel like speaking to the somatic, what the experience is, like what's the sensation in the body, gives people access to understanding and mapping it for themselves. So for you, Aeray, what does that sensation of like avoiding feel like for you in your body, if you could name it?
That's a good question. I haven't quite put into words. Let's see. It definitely feels like shrinking, and it's kind of tracking people, making my choices based around what other people are doing and where, and feeling limitation, a sense of limitation. Don't go this way or that way, or turn my head this way or that way, and not make eye contact. If I see someone walking toward me that I'm avoiding, walking the other way, and a general feeling of my energy going lower, or my not feeling in my power, not feeling like I even have this choice. It's more so basing my choices around what not to do, rather than feeling full freedom to show up and connect. For sure, not feeling able to connect or achieve some sense of intimacy. And over time, the more boundaries of those that exist, the less energy I feel, and the less joy I feel, and the less alive, and the less embodied, and the less here, and the less love. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And thank you. What else do I want to speak to this on this? This is because I feel so I feel so content like all the time now just talking to you. It's, well, where can we go? It's like all playfulness, right?
Yeah. I'll speak something else to that if it's all
Please.
right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really loved that I've never done before was the conscious goodbye. Like, and I've never even considered this, that in a container that's been created, that you could realize who and what situations you've been avoiding or that have been unresolved, even if they're just tiny things. And actually going to that person and saying, you know what, I'm going to name this thing before we say goodbye, and have a chance to resolve that. And doing that, when that first started, I thought, I've done that all week. I've confronted everybody and I don't have anything left. And so I sat with it and I thought, maybe there's something microscopic. And I had a few, oh yeah, there is a few things I haven't named yet. Let's go there. Let's do that. And it just felt like such completion on a deep level that I walked away from that feeling like everything just sealed up and I wasn't carrying anything. And I felt everything felt open and free, and all my energy was available to me. Nothing was leaking out. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Powerful.
Yeah, so powerful. And I think that being able to be with and bring all those pieces back, like reclaiming whatever's there, like wherever that energy is going, like, or afraid to have that conversation, or afraid to follow that thought or fantasy to its end point to get closure on whatever it was that was there. Yeah, to bring this, reconcile all that vitality. Like, I think that's real, like soul reclamation, right? It's really that bringing all of it back into you. Now, this is where I'm bringing everything back. And then when you're working with clients, like that's the deliverable you're giving to a client, right? Because there's nothing else that's draining your energy. It's everything's like, I'm with you right now.
So clear,
so
crystal clear. I had a session today. I've been having lots of sessions come. Everything's been coming in so big from every direction. I mean, just effortlessly. My dream job landed in my lap last night. Sessions have been coming, relationships have been coming, opportunities, events, love, everything on every level. And the clarity has been there to where the message and the transmissions are just coming through from such a clear place, because doesn't have to be any of me involved in that anymore. There's no murky, muddy interference there. It's just like coming through because I decide to show up and transmit it. And then, yeah, it's,
There was something that you mentioned in the note to me was you feel resolved inside, because normally you'd have a laundry list of stuff that you want to work on. Now, I think it's really common for people to have like, I need to work on this and this and this and this and this. And then when you have a somatic experience, especially in group, there's something that shifts at a radical level. So tell me about that experience.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I have always felt at some level a discontent, like a deep unease that I felt was the human condition, and didn't think it was possible to feel peace and contentment or resolution inside. And I have had people in the past say, what, you don't feel peaceful? And I'm like, no, but do you? Like, no, there's this buzz inside all the time that I couldn't sit still. And turns out to be rage, or actually it's fear. It was the fear of the rage, the fear of what that could do to someone or myself that I was pushing down. And the release of all of that, the massive release of all of that, and getting current, coming to a point where by the end, I really felt content. I mean, to the point where I could close my eyes for hours and just think, oh, it feels so good. It feels so good in my body. I feel so good. There's nothing to do. Just in so much love pouring out, so much connection, and so much to give. I mean, my feeling at the end of it was, I'm ready to be in service now, because there's nothing I can think of that's left. and the work never ends, the refinement never ends, but it was more this never feeling resolved on the inside in terms of that contentment, and always feeling that there was something I needed to do for myself to transform this. And I couldn't give to somebody else because I had this deep unrest inside, and I couldn't really be there and show up in that way. Yeah. And yeah, I walked in with a laundry list of intentions. I mean, I must have had 10 things. And by the end of the first full day, I was like, well, that's done. Like, are we on day 5 or is this still day 1? What is going on? This thing is going to blow my mind. So I wrote up a few more intentions, even random things that I thought wouldn't even come through. And they absolutely did. I mean, it just was radically transformative in every way. And I would, not only recommend it, but I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, I'm overdue for it. I'd love to go back and do another level 1. I'd love to do a level 2. And I think for me, it would be geographically doing it somewhere else. Like I want to not do it in Australia. I thought the Australian one had like 100+ people there.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people. And a lot of it was backlogged from COVID. And like my partner went, and what I heard was there wasn't enough space, like to really be present enough. It's like having one teacher with a class full of 100 kids, and sure there were facilitators there. And I know that it's a very small community that does this kind of stuff. So we're all kind of know each other, either first or second degree, friends of friends. And so for me, like when I traveled to do my level 1, that was a game changer for me because I had other people from other parts of Australia come. So I know for me, I'd love to go overseas and just have that different experience of energy, to have that sampling of other energy.
Yeah. And some of the activities that we did, my particular favorite, and one of the reasons I went was the morning share circle. It was only 15 minutes long and we had 50 people. And this to me was the juiciest part of the whole thing. It was getting in the middle of the circle and being vulnerable in whatever way came out. I mean, when people would get in and share their rage and frustration, wow, did that impact me. You couldn't take my attention away. I was so engrossed in this, and going into the circle and feeling that was so transformative because that was an edge that I was at and ready for with my own vulnerability that was not accepted in a past relationship, a recent relationship. So, I had a lot of re-traumatization with that. And I knew that I needed this. I needed to be vulnerable and be seen in that. I was still afraid to cry in front of people, so I went in a lot and I just expressed in whatever way came through. And I found it to be one of the most healing things, especially like we talked about before, the shame circles and things like that. I mean, wow, I just want full days of this. Where everybody has a chance. And I can't imagine with 100 people being able to meet everybody's need in that way.
Yeah. And you mentioned before the rage in the circle, and you mentioned before about getting to terror, and terror is it's a different experience being able to go through terror, because we talk a lot of somatic experience and you go through rage, and rage is okay to get to. Terror is that next tier of like a self-annihilation place, right? And when you said to me that you experienced terror, like you screeching in terror, I was like, yes. I was like, oh my God, she went there. I was like, oh yes. And then what was that like? And you also said, I didn't want to scream into a fucking pillow. Like I didn't want to cover my hands. I'm like, no, I'm raw. This is.
I want to be loud. Yeah. I'm not afraid anymore of that. I'm not afraid of the rage. I'm not afraid of the expression. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's incredible. And that terror, it came out of me. It was different than a scream of rage or something like that, which I'm agreeing to and moving in a way, like I'm choosing it, even though there's a quite a big percentage of it that's just happening beyond my control. It's like I'm surrendering to let it happen, but there's a coexisting there. And the terror, when it came out, was its own entity that came out of me, like hurling out. I was like, what was that? Where did that come from? It was so loud and piercing and intense. And when it was gone, you know, it came from like this part of my body. And when it was gone, everything just relaxed.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a few more releases in different parts of my body, and those parts relaxed. And after that experience, that was the massive change. I mean, I felt like I had released demons,
Yeah.
you know, and I felt so relaxed. I felt so juicy. You couldn't move me for hours. I was just like, oh, I feel so good. Oh, and I was so playful. You know, I just had a whole new, I felt reborn. I simply felt reborn. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I felt all of that. That injury, the terror injury, is what make it's the seed of passive ideation and suicidal ideation. And when someone can feel it and move through it, like it shifts, it ripples out through so many collective. And there's so much. Just so I'm losing my words here because I'm like it's such a potent experience to really land here on Earth. And be okay to be here. It's like, no, I'm actually, I can feel my diaphragm tremoring right now. Like it's so beautiful just to be in all of Earth, like everything. And yeah, thank you for sharing that with me. I love that. Whew. You've mentioned before about being spiritually fucked, right? And
Oh,
what the
yeah.
experience,
Oh, yeah.
I can feel that
Yeah.
right now. I'm like, whoa, like this is that. Oh, that sensation of wow, this is the human experience. Yeah, what was your
I got
experience of
that.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, I got that. I got that. That I received that for sure.
Mm,
Yeah. And I have said that in my opening intentions there too, you know, and I thought after I said that, I thought, you know, that could mean different things. Like in my mind, I'm thinking like a pipe cleaner through the chakras, like, but that could mean like I'm fucked spiritually. Like I don't want this. I got to be a little more specific about what I'm asking for here. But I definitely got what I asked for. I got it. I got it. And in the way that I wanted it, I mean, it could not have been better or more profound or deeper or more fulfilling. And it was the full gamut. You know, it was the full realization of all that I intended.
beautiful. And you mentioned in your message to me your blueprint. It's a sexual blueprint, like the energetic. And I don't know if many people know about the energetic blueprint. So sorry, the erotic blueprints. So tell me more about the energetic.
Yeah. So, well, just a quick recap of the different types. You know, you have the sexual type, which is the kind that just wants to put it in the hole, or like, you know, just by looking at a body can feel turned on. The sensual type, which likes the soft, sensual touch. The energetic type, which is more tuned into how the energy feels. And I'll come back to that in a second. You have the kinky type next, which is the taboo, bringing in the taboo. And then, of course, the shapeshifter, which is all of them. So the energetic, the best way that I could describe this is that the real sexual energy is happening in the almost, in the not touching. It's in the space between. It's in the buildup, in the tension, and the frequency match, and the dance, and how two different people come together. And it's not there in every opportunity for intimacy and relating. And that's one big thing I learned there, was that it takes a specific kind of energy for energetic types. It takes a specific kind of matching of energy or a specific build of tension, and generally a slower build.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like breathing, a little more tantric. Yeah. And transformational.
It
You know, as a
is.
yeah.
It's so transformational. Like for me, like what I did my blueprint a few years ago, and originally I was shapeshifter, and the more inner work that I did, the more energetic I became, where it was more the container that created the tension and the polarity. It's like with Cassie and I, we have scheduled time of the week where we'll create this container, and it's so slow. It's so, there's so much, and because we have set a date, there's an anticipation towards it as well. And it's all slow. It's a completely different dynamic where before, like other partners where it would be completely sexual, and these would tend to be partners who have come from some level of abuse, or where it was always, they needed to be physical all the time, physical. And for me, that really left me feeling used.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, yes, sure, it feels good, but actually my body is saying no. I don't want to say no because I don't want to upset this person. So I'll just go through it, and then feeling so depleted and drained and self-betrayed afterwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to speak to that as well, in the context of kind of the wheel of consent and giving and receiving versus taking and allowing, and how, the energetics come into play there based on intention too. And, when you have this taking that can be done like this feeling used afterwards, right? Because that intention there is, there's, it's almost like the taking, there is a form of taking that really, really works for the energetic type.
Yeah.
That can work, because even though the taking is taking for their pleasure, and that's part of the allowing turn on, there is a deep down desire of that taking is for the other pleasure too, but there's an energetic agreement almost that can facilitate that. And yeah, I noticed that come a little more into play with energetic types, that they can be in these brackets a little bit more, but under real, like there really has to be the consent, and it really has to be an energetic match.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to throw you a curveball. And so with the erotic blueprints, and you also do like gene keys and human design readings, and your way you did my reading is like it was a quick reading, and it was so potent. And I want to throw in, like, have you seen a correlation between the erotic blueprints and like the human design and the gene keys? Have you seen an overlay between them, or is it just like they're two separate beasts?
A little bit with the 59, especially that the 59th gene key, there can be more tendency toward more the sexual blueprint type with that, because there's just like a real strong desire. Like the 59 tends to have a strong desire for sex, which is, that they don't necessarily need so much buildup. It's just there for them. Right. And maybe that's the same with sensuality. They enjoy that, but it's just that they don't tend to need as much buildup. It's just more available. Whereas energetic types tend to not have anything in that baby maker channel, the 59 or the 6, that they're, it's like getting into that sexuality from another direction, which depending on, this would be a great correlation to look into that I haven't really looked into, but perhaps somebody who's emotionally defined, but has that channel open, would need more of an emotional connection, which is definitely in the energetic, type 2, that a lot of energetics really need emotional connection, like a strong emotional desire. That was something I realized for me at ISTA for sure, was that I wasn't able to feel that desire for anybody there, because, there's a very specific quality, and as well, there needs to be some kind of an emotional, like I could be in relationship with this person, like a desire to be with them on a more different level, or on other levels than just sexuality. Like the sexuality comes from the desire to be with them on these other levels. Like, oh, then the sexuality is the icing on that, and not the beginning point, which it can be for sexual types. But yeah, I definitely see that baby maker channel has a lot of influence there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And when you were speaking, I was thinking about the sacral. People who are defined and undefined sacral, and how does that play out with the sexual or the kinky? Maybe like more manifestors are more prone to kinkiness than
right. In projectors, maybe too, like sensual, like the non-energy types, right, that may not be energetic as much. That's interesting. I'm thinking just in terms of my son, he's very tactile. Like I could see him developing to be more sensual in that way. He's a manifester, and that, yeah. And energetically, I noticed that he doesn't, just in our relating, that he isn't really attuned energetically the way that I am. He's not really, he's kind of not aware of that. But when it comes to like tactile, he's always very gentle, and, his touch. And so maybe there's a correlation there. I don't know, because I know him very well as a manifestor child, but other manifestors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, just now that speaking to it now, I know 3 manifestors, a splenic and an ego authority, two splenics and an ego, and they're all kinky. Like they're all like, tell me your kinks. They're all that kinky energy. So I'm curious now, and that I put that marker there. I'm like, oh,
I could see that. Yeah. 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 And a projector, because they like to guide, maybe projectors are more into doming than submitting. Or manifestors too, and it's the generators that are like, all right, use my energy. What do you want to do? We're overgeneralizing here for sure, but
and I love it, because I'm pretty sure there'll be an overlay. Like, that's why I love systems, right? There's always some subtle overlay, always.
Yeah.
And
there is, yeah.
I think that's why I loved your reading, is how you overlaid the human design and the gene keys. And like you've done gene keys from like day dot, right?
Yeah, I started with
the gene keys. And so I'd love to hear where do you see, because you had this, it's like a rebirth. Where do you see your technology and artistry moving to now?
With the gene keys, you mean?
Gene keys, yeah. Oh, and your work in general. Like, where do you see
my God. Things are exploding right now. I actually have been carrying some big visions for the last years that I haven't talked about to anyone. And I just started talking about them naturally. I mean, it's been catalyzing. It's the time. And I actually brought it to the community today, the greater community, this big vision that I have. And I had a meeting about it today with some other visionaries. And there's things happening all over the place with my genius right now. And one of them is to bring a resource bank and a gift economy to the world. That's like an online portal for community to be, that's altruistic, that has to do with the founders not taking any of the resources that come and just channeling them exactly where people want them to go, and everything being, voted upon and equal power. But also that our greatest value right now, like the wealthiest people right now and coming into this new world, are those that have energy, time, skills, knowledge, and wisdom. And it's the opposite of what we've known before.
Yeah.
And these are the ones that are going to be the creators that get to actually develop and implement this new world. So we're kind of inverting things and reversing things in a way that's really exciting. And then, in terms of the gene keys and human design, one of the jobs that I had in the past, and something that might be coming up again, another job possibility that's on my plate here of potentially running a retreat center and hiring people based on their genetic blueprint and what their zone of genius is, and putting them in roles that they get to design themselves, based on what they really want to do and as much as they want to do. And it's just new blueprints for codes of operation and interrelating, and bringing a lot of authentic relating and conscious communication into all of this. And wow, there's just, it's so big. There's a lot of land projects happening, and people wanting to expand communities, and it's the world is rapidly moving in a direction that I look forward to seeing emerge.
Yeah, me too. And when you were speaking, then my ears were ringing, which for me is usually a good sign that whatever's coming through is pretty high vibrational.
That's a good sign.
Good sign. So in your relationship with community, where do you see community tends to implode on itself?
Communication, 100%. Communication, conflict resolution, unresolved emotional issues, not being current emotionally, projecting that onto other people, having expectations of how people should show up and that they should be like us,
Yeah.
And value what we value, and not making space for people to be different and unique, and that, really radical acceptance of each other as unique individuals, and finding a way to harmonize with that. Um, yeah, everything communication, I think avoidance patterns for sure, not confronting things or not knowing how, and not doing it in a way that's actually productive, but that can cause more harm.
Mm.
A lot of this, I think, the authentic sharing, the vulnerable shares in community are important to bring current what we're holding on to, resentment buildup. Yeah, holding things against each other without being able to name it. Yeah,
Mm.
a lot of this.
Thank you. Because I've seen communities build and maintain like not so much a parasitic, but something else that's there, like a black mold, like a mold that's there and it persists.
Yeah.
And then unable to enroll leadership into speaking to what's there, particularly with in tantric style communities, or communities that have an overarching spiritual nature, where there's not a will to confront, because anger
Mhm.
is seen as something that's not appropriate, because anger's that boundary creating emotion where it's like, no, this is wrong. There's something that's here. And then being able to tease apart, well, is it wrong, or is something, is you're just upset about something because you didn't get your own way?
Yeah.
And being able to speak to that powerfully and create a diplomatic space to explore the logical side, the vision, and what's actually going on for the individual in that process. I see it as a triangle as I'm speaking to it.
Mhm.
But what would you say could create an access to this? Because I do feel like there's something that's bubbling to the surface here, like whatever poison or whatever toxins that are around right now are coming up. So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I fully agree with you. I think you're really starting, you're feeling and pulling something forth that I think is really important here. And these authentic, that share circle, that morning circle, that share circle, that needs to happen in communities more often, where it's not directed necessarily at a person, but somebody can get in the middle and release that tension, release that rage, just go in and like, I'm so frustrated, I'm so sick of this, and I'm so sick of that. And it's not directed at someone, but everybody gets to witness where they're at and how they feel. And then, as a follow-up, after everybody's had their chance to purge, then it's a lot easier to tease apart, because the emotional body is released. And therefore we can be more clear, our limbic system can turn back on. We can be more clear in our communication, in our thought process, and have access to the ability to name and to speak to it, and to it's a lot easier to ask for things when we've released that, because we need to be heard and seen in that first. So that needs to just come out, like to make space for that, because then it's not wrong to feel anger and rage anymore. Or to even go and, I had the first time I walked in, I felt a lot of grief, and I hadn't ever grieved in front of anyone before like that. And I just went in and grieved. And the second time I had a bunch of gratitude come up. And the third time it was a lot of fear. And I had an opportunity to feel, my body was just shaking, and I was using my voices to speak to all my inner voices were having a conversation out loud in a way that could be seen. And, the real fear that people are carrying is to be seen in their feelings, and to be seen in their uncontrollable emotions. And once we hold that container and allow that, I think we resolve, reduce, and remove a big block to authentic communication and relating. And then we can really address it and say, okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us how you feel. What do you need? Yeah.
Thank you. When you're speaking, then it reminded me of the corporate world too, where like I was 17 years in corporate, and there were moments where I just wanted to explode. And then speaking to hypocrisy or accountability or bullshit, like trying to trying to bring in human resource values when the company was completely over about money, right? Just own that you want to make money instead of like trying to bring in family values and no, we're a family and we're this and we're that. And no, you're not. We're not. It doesn't feel like a family to me. So
Right.
being able to, like, in that corporate sector, because that repression of all that rage and hypocrisy and resentment, like, it builds silos, and then you see catastrophic failures happen, particularly in industries that require levels of accuracy and conscientiousness and teamwork. Like I'm going to speak to the military because the military pops out to me, where the military and industries, well, we're in the, and even artificial intelligence, where we've got people, men and women, working in industries that can influence the entire planet, and they're not being able to speak to their emotional experience of what is being created. And I see that suppression of the emotional, and then how it betrays our own inner compass of morality. And sure, morality is made up to some degree, and everybody has a compass that is I think is aligned to the betterment of humankind, of mankind. So in that corporate space, being able to speak to everything that's going on for someone non-judgmentally, or not but non-condemnationally, like being able to speak to the frustration and the alienation, or the what's missing, like the pieces, the analog signal, how we try and digitize it and we make it binary, but then there's an analog, there's all these other nuances in the human condition that we miss when we're trying to coax it into a model of what's right and what's wrong. I spoke a lot there. I don't know what you got from that, but that's what came out.
I'm enjoying it. I'm receiving it and seeing through this lens of yours. And I agree. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've noticed this, and this comes in other forms besides just glossing over the corporate world. Like, we're a family, we're this and that. It's also in the ick factor of marketing, like you get in the airplane and they're like, we do this all for you, and you're our greatest joy, and da da da. And it's like, well, if that was true, then how come I can't sit in that seat? I don't believe you. You are definitely doing this for money. How come I can't change my ticket? And how come I, have to pay for whatever? You're not doing this for me. You're doing this for you. And it's that, that's glossing something over because they're trying to access our heart, but it's coming from a place of manipulation and not authentic, and it's okay to be authentic. That's what the point is that own it, just own it. If you're doing this, if you're an airline company doing it to make money, then just be like, this is why we're doing it. And this, and be real about it, because people will respect that more. They're going to feel safer more. And the biggest thing is it's going to build trust, and trust is the currency, the only currency that we really, really need. And it's the currency that we are the most poor in this day.
Yes.
And
I love that.
is how we build that trust back up. I trust somebody that says to me, if they came up to me and said, I don't care about you or your feelings. I just want to have sex with you. I'm going to probably say, no, thanks, but thank you for your transparency. I really appreciate your honesty. I at least I know you're going to tell me the truth.
Totally.
And I'd rather
that. Yeah. And when you're speaking, that what popped out was the 55 and the 59, where
I was just going to say,
could geek out on gene keys all day. Because to restore that, it was in corporate, to restore the trust from the dishonesty was always transparency. Make it transparent, even down to how much money that you earn. Make it all transparent. Just make it all visible. Which is why I love the concept of the blockchain, because it's visible. And what else stood out for them when you were speaking then? I was speaking to a mate before about, he works in the mines. He's been working in the mines for years. And they've been trying to bring in this corporate culture of like, it's family, we want to make sure that what you're taken care of. And then they cut their hours. So they saved like $15,000 per person over a year. And he just said, just own that you want to make money. Just own that you're here. You don't care about the planet. You don't really care. You just care to make money. Stop pretending. And then in my marketing,
being
able to own, like, yeah, I want to make money. I've got a vision board up there. It's got like $2 million on it and $50,000 months. Like, I want to
Mhm.
make money, and I also need people to help me make money. I need clients, and my marketing not only accesses pain points for somebody to put them in a place of, oh, I actually need help. And I'll also give free value from whatever it is that I'm putting out there. But is it really free though? Because I'm actually enticing you, like, come into my web. Look at this web. Look at how beautiful it is. Look at how shiny it is. Or, okay, I did a course of masterclass a while ago about owning your predator. Where I was like,
Oh, that's a good one.
what kind
That's
of,
a good one. And
yeah,
your greed would be a good one too. Own your, any shadow.
any
I love
shadow,
it.
yeah, just make it public. Like, I like an anglerfish is a great one. So in the workshop, I had a woman say, "I'm not a predator. I don't know what I am," and said, "Well, talk to me. Like, talk to me about how you entice people to come in, like with your son or your daughter." And she was like, "Oh, like I dangle something in front of them, like, come over here." And then it's like like kind of taking them in. It's like an
Gotcha.
anglerfish. So don't pretend that you are a predator nature. Just
Right.
own it.
Yeah, that's the freedom with all the shadows, really.
Mm.
To be in denial of our shadows doesn't mean we don't have them.
Mm.
It's like what Richard Red says that I always loved. I might have said this in the last episode was
Say it again.
it's better to be fucked up and honest than to pretend to be perfect.
Yeah.
It is in these days. It is. And trust currency comes with that. I mean, it kind of is similar to to go back to the beginning of this, when I said that part of the reason I didn't want to ask for what I wanted was I was afraid somebody would say yes when they meant no. And I've had a few opportunities, especially with bringing my vision to some other visionaries and some people that I really respect that have some skills that could contribute. And, one of them was saying, I could feel him dragging his feet and doing this, like, whoa, 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 I'm not committing to anything. I want to know more. I want to hear, but I've heard a lot of this before, and a lot of people want to do things like this, and I don't know if I can trust this. And I said, your boundary that I'm feeling is welcome to me, because this shows me that you are committed to yourself, to your integrity, to your own vision and your own alignment, and that you're not going to say yes to something that doesn't fully align. And I trust that. That makes me trust you more.
Mm.
And I actually value you more. You're showing me that you're someone that I can trust by saying no, by not saying yes too easily.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
And
that. When you're
generate. Mhm.
yeah, when you were speaking, that it reminded me of, I do a lot of DM reach outs to people in my Facebook field. And sometimes these are women and men who are attached to they're not attached, but they're attuned to their instinctual nature, and they can feel my predator. Like, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'm going to tease out, like, do you need my help, through
Mhm.
establishing, like, what's your injury? Like, show me what your injury is. I don't want to expose my injury. Or, I know you're trying to get to my injury. Just say you want my injury. And there was a
Yeah.
woman that I reached out to and said, "Are you trying to sniff out if there's something wrong in my community?" And I haven't replied to her yet. So I'm like, so it's just sitting there, because I could feel it, because I've got, like, I want to jump to my gene keys again. Like, there's a part of me that wants to fight, right? I think it's a 38 or the 37.
38. Yeah.
38. And I'm like, when I feel someone coming up against something, I'm like, I'm going to fight you. And so
Uh-huh.
I've not replied to her message, because I can feel that the fight in me. So I'm like, I'm just going to have this fight in me right now instead of with you. And I love it. And then I was making dinner last night, and Cassie looked at my face and went, "John, what's going on with your face?" I'm having a fight with someone in here right now. Because I'm like doing all these ones, it's like, and like this, and I'm like,
Aspecting on the inside.
aspect inside. So yeah, there's something in being able to own all of that, and the boundary pushback. No, I've heard this before. I've heard this, and also being able to speak to it. I think so. That injury, like
Yeah.
in characterology, that injury, the mistrust injury,
Trust. I
is
was going to say it's trust. Yep.
yes, yeah. This is a there's a the schizoid has it, and the rigid has it. So the schizoid, it doesn't want to be on Earth. So straight away they're hyper vigilant to anybody that could take their life away or take away their autonomy. And then the rigid is forever afraid of being being betrayed. So there's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're taking it. I can feel there's an emotional entanglement happening here. Like you're using emotions against me. It's like, oh,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
I'm not gonna let you in, or I know you're after something, which can also tie into flirtation, where there's the predator of flirtation, where you don't always know you're using it to charm, but deep down you're actually just like slowly encompassing someone in all of this like charm type energy. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it all ties back into trust and trust currency, right? And how we've broken trust, especially in marketing and corporation and capitalism all together. And it's, God, in the DMs, Jesus, where it's happening. It's really happening so much that even me, if I sniff out any of that energy, I'm like, nope, I'm putting up a wall. I don't want any, this, I'm going to coerce you or like subtly whatever into paying for my thing. And I'm not going to tell you what my thing is either, because then you might see that I need your help and you're going to try to get me to pay for that and da, 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 da. Like, it's just all from that same wound of lack of trust, of being used, being manipulated and being used. And I love the approach, the authentic, honest approach, like this woman that you're, unraveling this trust conundrum in the DMs. And if you simply replied just yes, and nothing else, like it's just like no is a full sentence, so is yes. And just like yes, if there's no explanation, then there's nothing there's nothing wrong. Like if you're only need to explain if you feel ashamed of, or if there's a reason to do that, right? Yes, it is. So do you want to go further or not?
Exactly.
Because that's unique. That's going to
Yeah.
catch people by surprise, because that honesty is not happening.
Yeah. And I've had that before too, where someone's made an assumption about me. I mean, and I can tie in both with the fifth line as well. And I'm also being a predator and all of it. So like, yeah, I am. And then just sending her a voice message like, yeah, I am straight. This is what I'm doing. Like, I get it. And just being completely honest and open. She's like, oh my God, John. Like, I just thought you're like every other coach that's out there that's looking to get something. So yeah, I am. And
yeah, which is great. That's great. That's the thing that's missing. And that's what's so, there's another coach of a different sort, not a relationship coach, but a different kind of coach that I'm friends with on Facebook. And right in the beginning, when I started my new page, I made that declaration of I'm not here to charge anybody money, and I'm not here to pay you money. I'm here for relationships. And that's what I use Facebook for. And he said, well, why are we friends then? Because I'm here to make money. And I was like, great. That's authentic relating, in my opinion, which is what I'm here for. So as long as you're okay with me not paying you the money and you still want to be friends, then let's keep doing this. And he was like, sounds good to me. I was like, but it really shocked me, because he showed up in my comments saying, I'm here to make money. And he posted that on his wall too, of like, just after that, just to be clear to everybody, I'm actually here to make money, and I'm using my page to catalyze business and bring people forward. And I was like, wow, that's refreshing. And the other end of the spectrum of where I'm coming from, but equally is beautiful and authentic. And I've got space for that, because there's no manipulation happening, and no trick, no trust breach.
Totally. Which is why for me, which is why I do podcasts and conversations, because I'm like, cool, okay. No, I see there's nothing that is worthwhile paying for here, but I'd love to have a conversation with you. Like, who are you? What are you doing? Like, there's something about you that I find fascinating. What is that in you? And allowing that to play out too, because the same thing would happen in the street. Like if I'm going somewhere and I just see someone, but Facebook's just expanded and social media's expanded the landscape of where connections can happen. Cool, let's have a conversation. What's there for you?
Yeah, and you get to expose yourself, and then people get to see you in action. And really what people need to see, and they're getting an opportunity to see through this, is your frequency.
Yes.
Like coming from, because they're going to feel it, whether they know what's happening here and here and here or whatever. The frequency is what they're tuning into, and they're like, whoop, I'm orienting to that.
Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah, and thank you for speaking to that, because when I create written post, it's very two-dimensional. And then when
Yeah.
I'm speaking or on video or someone sees me in all of that rawness, it's like, oh, John, he's just like he's an okay guy. You know, I could talk to him. You know, I could tell him how much of a fuckwit he is or how much I love him. And he'll be like, yeah, okay. I
Sure.
agree. I agree.
I liked this post. I didn't like this post. It's agreeing or disagreeing. It's more about the content and less about the energy. Yeah.
Totally. I feel complete. Is there anything else that you would like to speak to?
Oh, wow. I just always appreciate deep diving with you. I love the container that you create. It feels really like safe and open and fun and exciting. And your energy to me is, yeah, it's juicy and it's ripe. And I love doing these and I'd love to do more. There's lots of things we can talk about, at that kind of probably go outside of the realm of relating. So we'll see, but
Right. I'd love that. I'm not tethered to that. I'm like, let's just go everywhere.
yeah. I mean, there's endless possibilities. And this is fun for me. You're fun and it's exciting. And I'm really grateful that your energy is here on the planet and that you've showed up in my life and invited me to experience you this way and participate. And I'm excited for what you're bringing to the planet and the world. I'm excited for the people who get to work with you. And I'm excited to be working with you in this way. And yeah, I'm so grateful. Thank you. Yeah.
Still with that land.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you, Aeray. It's a pleasure to have you on. Wow. Yeah, that really landed. I can feel I'm giggling. My voice has gone all over the place. I'm a little kid now. I can feel it's like 3 or 4-year-old. Like, go giddy. Yeah, thank you so much for being here and agreeing and just being so honest and transparent in your experience of life. And thank you for like that ISTA experience and sharing your experience and actually going to that edge and waiting for the right time, like not rushing into it, like how everybody else is, oh, you got to do it, you got to do it. No, it's not. Now's the time. And honoring whatever that was there for you, because I really feel we're shifting the wheel of samsara or whatever it is that we're doing here. That's so beautiful and
Yeah.
birding everything right now. So now let's make this heaven on earth happen, right? Let's do it. And being really excited by that. So yeah, really feel like you're a pillar, a lighthouse, and my legs are shaking as I'm speaking this. There's something that's
I love it.
a beacon of hope and vision, and also the structured aspect of the grounding of the lower self. Like you've got it. Like just speak to the human condition and let's just create, right?
Yeah.
With love.
That reminds me of something. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please come.
I was just thinking for in the future, we should do this some more. And I'd love to go and unpack the abundance consciousness. And this is such a big one. And it's been like the experiment that did we talk about that in the last one? The experiment of running out of money on purpose.
I don't think so.
Okay, we need to do an episode on this because this is going to be fascinating for people. And I just had a conversation with a friend the other day and she said, I've been working on my abundance consciousness for so long and working on my scarcity and now I'm running out of money. And I said, what if the work or the journey with scarcity doesn't begin until you're out of money?
Oh, I'd love that because I can feel it coming through me right now. Like, yes.
Yeah.
And
that it's actually going through that portal. And that's the only way to see that source will take care of you. And that's the only way to end the real greed inside, because the greed comes from the fear of not having enough. And when you don't have anything and you are taken care of, that transformation can happen. And that's the journey that I've been on and taking. I'm on the other side of that now. And I'm seeing all the fruits coming from that because there's no more fear. There's no more fear of not having. I'm actually more comfortable now in the not having because I feel free and magical and abundant in other ways. But now the abundance is coming and I'm like, all right, I'll just take it all. I
love that. I love it. I just super quick. Like when I started running out of money, I was confronted with the choice of like, well, do I want to do this business or not? Or go try and find this corporate job, half-assed corporate job. And what I've discovered is, and I'm not quite sure which gene key speaks to it, but it's Like you get what's required, not what you think that you need. So like when you're aiming for like all this abundance codes and like, I'm going to be a six-figure, seven-figure coach, but do you need that right now? Like, do you
Right.
need it right now? And then
Yeah.
really dialing it back to, well, what do I actually need right now? And then trusting that, oh, that's what I need to do right now. Like we need a new car. We're not going to go buy a new car, but there's other steps beforehand that we need to put in place, and that the trusting myself to put those steps in place, like putting my current car on the market, not needing to wait for this 10 or 10, this $10,000 or whatever is to appear in my bank account, but actually take the trust steps first. Like, cool, aim to sell my car. There's all that. I'd love to have a deeper conversation about that.
Yeah. And I mean, we'll have to do this again another time, but that sometimes the universe is actually reorienting us by not giving us what we want and not giving us the money. Like, no, don't go spend the money on that new car because you're going to actually sell that in a couple months because you're actually going in this direction.
Yes.
And trusting that too, because that's happened to me a bunch. I would have spent that money on this, but that wasn't actually right for me. And thank God I didn't have the money then, and trusting that whole process. And as well, that we can get hard on ourselves. Like a lot of the stories, I've been doing all this work with scarcity. I've been doing all this money work for years. Why isn't it coming? Why isn't it coming? I'm doing something wrong. I need to do this other thing. I'm being punished by however you interpret that personally, that's not actually personal. It's actually the great lesson of learning to trust. And people are saying, well, how can I trust when it's not here? Because it is there when you need it. And it's when you run out, and it does happen to be there still when you need it. And this is different than spending all your money and then taking out loans from people, because I don't think this works when you're in debt. I think that there's a fiscal responsibility on the other end of the spectrum that's also, it's a balance. Yeah. But, it's not about using other people's resources in this way. It's like trusting that and being available and still being willing to do the work, and still being smart about it. And, just there's a whole lot that plays into this that we can unravel.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for sharing that taster, because I can feel it. Like it's I'm mouth watering to get into it. So thank you so much, Aeray. Much love. I'm going to hit the stop button and then we can finish up off camera. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Much love. Bye.
Yeah.